Just a very brief statement. I think it's important to note that there is a bipartisan agreement that we need to restructure Fannie and Freddie. And how to do it is going to be terribly consequential, not just to these institutions, but to the homeowners, taxpayers, the construction industry, you name it. Everybody, I think, has a equity in this issue of getting it right. I think it's also important to note that a lot of the issues that we're dealing with, we've seen before. The evolution of the Fannie and Freddie began in the 30s because there was a liquidity crisis, huge foreclosures. There was no mechanism, and the government stepped in and created a mechanism. Today, effectively, Fannie and Freddie, in many respects, is the liquidity mechanism for the entire market. And without its existence, we would have, I think, much more serious consequences in the financial markets and on Main Street, as well as the financial centers. So we are wrestling with an issue that has come up repeatedly throughout our history. How do we provide support for the housing market without risking unnecessarily taxpayers and risking the stability of our financial system? That's not an easy challenge. It's one we have to accept, and it's one of the course of the next several months and years, I hope, working on a bipartisan basis, we can accomplish, as we did, I think, looking back in many respects with many of the aspects of the Dodd-Frank bill, where there was agreement and there was support, and we've moved forward. Thank you. Secretary Geithner, in the context of this ongoing discussion about a global settlement, which has frankly been dragging on many, many months, and I think personally should come to an appropriate conclusion. If it doesn't, there is a potential for numerous suits by attorney generals in 25, 30 states, both in terms of consumer protection laws and other statutes, including criminal statutes. There is potential for bondholders with, I'm guessing, billions of dollars of notional value at risk of suing based on representative warranties. There is individual suits by homeowners who claim they were unfairly foreclosed. This would have, I would presume, a very deleterious effect on the marketplace and on the standing of the companies that you're talking to right now. Is that accurate?
Yes, Senator Reid, it is very important, and I think all parties have a stake in bringing this to resolution as quickly as possible. And it would help resolve the remaining legal uncertainty around the broader mortgage servicing foreclosure process. That itself is very important, and it would give us a better chance to move beyond this and focus more directly on the remaining things we have to do to help repair the damage in this market as a whole. It's very important that we try to bring this to bed as quickly as we can. I think all parties in this, not just the servicers, but the state AGs and the federal agencies have a strong stake in doing that.
Many of these are allegations in many respects, but a legal process that would take several years to determine multiple cases about liability, responsibility, that itself could have a very significant impact on the market, both the value of these companies and their ability, frankly, to move forward and to more robustly contribute to the recovery. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And this a comprehensive settlement like what's being discussed can't solve all these problems, but it'll help provide at least a measure of certainty with respect to the government and the servicers, and I think that's an important thing to do.
Thank you,
Senator. If I could just add on that
Secretary
as well.
Donovan.
One of the issues that would potentially result as well, we've made very clear, Secretary Geithner, in his testimony, that ensuring we have clear, consistent standards for servicing mortgages is an important element of our recommendations. One of the clear reasons we ended up in this crisis is that there were no consistent, strong standards for servicing those mortgages, how first mortgages interacted with seconds, and a result which had a fragmented set of standards that might come from individual settlements with various states or various agencies would be a real negative result. But I would also point to the fact that for many homeowners waiting who have not been offered the options that they should, that have ended up in foreclosure because early on in the process they weren't contacted as they were required to, for example, by FHA requirements, means that we have not only heard them, but lengthened potentially the foreclosure process. And a significant part of what we're aiming for here is to speed up the process, to make it better, and to get resolution, therefore, not just for the homeowners, but for the market as well. When a homeowner has to contact a bank 3 or 4 times, when paperwork is lost, when these types of things happen, it's good for no one in the process. And so it's important that these standards get established in a single, concerted way as much as possible, rather than in a fragmented way.
Secretary Donovan, just let me follow up. One of the, I think, insights of the report you submitted, and looking back, it should have been more obvious to us, is that I think, the nation, Congress, regulators were obsessed with home ownership in terms of that as the primary housing policy, and rental property, affordable rental property, multifamily was sort of a distant second, far distant second. And I think this report says we really have to have a balance. Many people, the best form of housing for them is affordable, decent rental housing. And that should be, our goal should be providing people the options so that they can choose the best form of housing for their family, their proximity to work, their lifestyle. One of the things that, and I'm glad you commented upon this, is the National Housing Trust Fund, which is devoted to trying to build and construct affordable housing for relatively low-income Americans, to make it affordable to them and affordable to all of us. And I wonder if you might comment upon this aspect of the report.
Very important, Senator, and thank you for raising it. You know, one of the things I think many folks miss in terms of what's happened as we've seen, gone through this housing crisis, we have in fact seen rents come down at the top end of the market, vacancies increase, but at the same time, at the lower end of the market, for those lowest income and even some moderate income renters, rents have actually increased, and to the point where between 2007 and 2009, we saw the single greatest increase in worst-case housing needs that we've ever measured in the study that we do every 2 years. And so clearly, the range of options that we're providing, the focus on affordable rental housing, has not been strong enough to meet those needs. And so the need for some kind of targeted, focused effort that improves on many of the shortcomings that we had in the affordable housing goals that the GSEs had, a much more targeted, transparent way of meeting those needs, we think would be help to significantly reverse the declines in affordability that we've seen through the crisis, while at the same time protecting against some of the negative impacts that the goals had at the GSEs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary.